Vanita, that's it. You can 5 minutes maybe.
Okay, yeah, great. Thank you, everyone. And thank you so much for joining. I know many of you have taken time from your work or your evening or family to join this project. As Frederick said, I'm Vanita Lucas. I'm the executive director of this for social good. We are all volunteer based. Everyone on the team, the board, the committee members are all volunteers because we really, really believe in the value that data and analytics and storytelling brings to social impact. I've been with Viz for Social Good for about 5 years now. Started off just learned about Viz for Social Good at a conference, and I thought this is amazing because it was a room full of people with data and analytics skills, some experience, some learning, and when I realized I could give back my own skills and talent to supporting a great cause, I just absolutely said I had to get involved. I've been in data and analytics my whole career. So knowing that I can actually, give back my time and skills to help was just very, very great for me. It gave me a purpose in life as well. And, with Viz for Social Good, we work with so many charities all around the world, some small. You have a local furniture bank or food bank. We've also worked with really, sort of the brand name charities like United Nations and the World Health Organization. So really a spectrum of causes and charities. And when we work with the smaller organizations, it's very clear. They have data, or they're struggling to find the right data, but they don't necessarily have the skills, the talent, resources to really understand what the data is telling them. And so it has been amazing to watch all the volunteers come through and really just tell their story about the data. Because we're tool agnostic, I have now seen, I think in the last few projects, so many creativity, so many different tools used. Obviously, Tableau is the data fam stands up right there very much in terms of tool usage, but we're seeing a lot of other tools as well. And welcome to all our new volunteers. It's so great that you've stepped up to support this, and no need to be cautious or afraid of your submission, because every analysis is welcome. We have folks that have joined a project, have not really worked with a tool, and then within months, they're creating some really powerful visualizations. So welcome to all of you, and thank you for joining. And I'm really excited for this project. This is actually our first project with a charity this year. And, thank you for Lorne for joining and for being generous with your data and sharing your organization's mission. And we really look forward to partnering with you on this project. So thank you.
Thanks, Vanessa. So yeah, the purpose of the call is really for Lorne from the Global Debt Research Institute to share his organization, his projects. He would also be showcasing his data set. And at the end, I can show you the website where you can actually find the data, but it's already online. So now we've got plenty of time for Lorne to basically tell us who you are and then tell us about your institute. Lorne, over to you. And thanks again for joining. Sorry, Lorne, we can't hear the interpreter.
We can see you, but we can't hear the interpreter.
Can you hear me now?
Oh, yes, we can. Thanks a lot.
Okay.
Hello.
Okay, great. Okay, thank you.
Now
All right.
you're online.
So I was explaining sort of the setup here. So I'm communicating in American Sign Language, and I'm using a sign language interpreter on separate screens. I'm connected to the phone with the interpreter, so there will be a delay for translation. So please interrupt if you need to, like you just did when you couldn't hear the interpreter. I'm Dr. Lorne Farovich, and I founded and am the executive director of a group of deaf researchers, a Deaf Research Institute, which is Global Deaf Research Group. And I want to clarify that the interpreter I'm working with, it's the first time with this content and information. So there may be some terminology or some content that is missed or lost in translation, but I'll do my best to make sure that doesn't happen. I'm really excited to be here with you all because, like you, I'm a data nerd. I love data, and really I'm excited to, I was excited to found my organization to tell stories through data. And maybe you've already read the blurb that I sent out to all of you that talks about deaf people have been neglected and overlooked and forgotten for many years, throughout history, actually, with the processing of technology. They haven't been linked in with many happenings, for example, many technologies, for example, Siri. Everything is connected to Siri, and everything from how to turn on the lights to everything else. And so, how can we allow deaf people to use that speech recognition if their deaf people are not included with that technology and that research and using speech? That involves data as well, and that's one of the reasons why we set up this organization. Really often, governments in many countries will go ahead and make calls to collect data, and deaf people can't hear the phone call. And so they are, excluded from the data collection and the technological ability to answer questions in that way and to contribute to the data. So that's why we were founded, and our hearts are really in it. And remember, to clarify, we've done research in other countries, in Pacific Islands, and we focus on analyzing the people, the non-communicable diseases. I just typed the word for you in case the interpreter didn't get it. So, we've done interviews with indigenous people on the islands, and we've collected data there. And people on those islands, there were only 2,000 people in Tahitian Island, and they did have deaf people there, and they told us, oh, we want to have you meet the deaf people. And so we travel across country into villages with extended families, large extended families, grandparents, aunts and uncles, and they had a 13-year-old daughter who was deaf and knew American Sign Language as well and could communicate. And so it was very exciting. And I asked what she wanted to become in the future. She said she wanted to become the mayor of that island. It was so touching, and it was really heartfelt. So we started to interview the family. They broke down and cried and said that they found that their deaf daughter, had diabetes, and they didn't know what to do. How to connect her to the healthcare system, how to communicate. There were no interpreters. They still didn't know if it was type 1 or type 2 diabetes. Lack of medication came into play. So when I left the island, I was thinking, still today, we have deaf people living in situations like that. And there are so many stories worldwide where deaf people are excluded from society, from the medical system. They don't have accessibility to communication. So we did go ahead and I founded this organization. The goal, the GRI, the goal is to collect data and value-wise that to add value to the data. Often people collect data and it sits there and it's not used, it's not applied to people's lives. So our organization's goal is to collect data, but also make sure it's implemented and applied to community problems and getting the community involved in the work. And also to set up partnerships like this one with deaf organizations and share the data about deaf people to expose it to other people and other organizations and tell our stories. So it's very exciting. So I'll go ahead and share my screen about some previous work that we just finished doing in Nigeria. And let me share that. Okay, can you see the screen and see me as well? Okay. Our goal is to challenge traditional medical approach as needed to help deaf people to find solutions. Deaf people are human beings, and we have to frame the mission to structure society and systems that cause disabled people to be systemically discriminated against in a way that disables us, because there's not access to the system and we are excluded from systems. So what we work to do is collect data and merge it into a model called social model of disability. So that's very strong belief and viewpoint and perspective that deaf people are humans, part of the human family. We are not broken. We don't need fixed. We are normal people, exactly like everybody else, but there are systemic failings. And so the UN goal and the sustainable development goal is related to that. The report that we offer, the goal is to give data that can be used as an important tool for deaf organizations, deaf leaders, hearing allies in politics and beyond that advocates for change and improves the quality of life for deaf people through systemic changes. And the more money that's given to deaf organizations and programs and services using this data, the better. And we are hoping that we can break down those failures and systems that uphold those failures to improve the lives of deaf people. Frederick, how many minutes do I have? Because I could go on and on, so I want to make sure I don't talk too much.
We've got an hour for the call, and I just need 10 minutes at the end to show the website. So another, I don't know, Q&A as well, maybe another 10 minutes. And then if people don't have Q&A questions, you can keep talking long, but maybe 10, 15 minutes.
Okay, very good. I'm going to set up my timer for 10 minutes.
Perfect.
Okay. We are so excited to share what we've learned and collected from our work in Nigeria in November. We stayed for a month. We got connected with the deaf community, and we used Nigerian Sign Language. I used American Sign Language, and then historically, some deaf leaders have gone to Nigeria and gone to the African countries and brought ASL. And it was really a colonization of the language by spreading ASL there. Their sign language is about 80% the same as American Sign Language as a result. So we were able to communicate with them and collect the data. It was a really rich experience. And throughout the month, we took the opportunity to connect with ministry educators, universities, health ministries, We went to the deaf school and saw deaf children in school, and we explained, the importance of education. So we invited local deaf program coordinators to work with us. We flied around the country. We went to 6 different states. We went to the north, northwest, northeast, south, southwest, and southeast regions of Nigeria. And we chose those areas specifically and carefully because they're going through a civil war and it's very dangerous. So we collected data in those various locations. We really focus on what you see on this list on the screen: socioeconomic, communication, information accessibility, clean water, hygiene, food security, health, well-being, education, safety, disaster preparedness, communication. Okay, and let me back up a little bit before I show you the statistics and the specific numbers. The survey that we did was over 100 questions, and it was a pilot survey. We piloted it first to make sure it was good to use in our first country in a serious way. We're going to Ecuador in the fall to collect data and connect with the community and tell their stories. So we are thrilled to have the opportunity to meet with you now because you can help us in maybe setting and revising our data collection and tell what's there and what's missing so we can tell a better story. Fill in potential gaps in the whole project and the program. The amount of data is a lot. It was over 100 questions, so it can be quite overwhelming. So we can't use all of what we collected. So what we should select to use, really, again, the goal of this work is to provide different deaf leaders, organizations, the general public, tools to be able to advocate for themselves in legal, legislative changes. In deaf organizations, for example, they need specific data from us that we can provide to them. If there's a deaf organization that specializes in health, they might want different data we can provide. So we want to develop sets of data to pass it on to a variety of types of organizations to help with their work. We're quite overwhelmed at the moment. Really, my research questions will be more than 15 years of research. I've traveled to a variety of different countries and used various questions about together really similar data about access and barriers. The research questions that we've used forecast are improvements in quality in life if there are systemic changes in accessibility. So you will see a variety of data that we've chosen from different standards. One is a test that we received from the World Health Organization. They have they have survey with 26 questions about quality of life. So we use those questions. And they have a system for evaluating and scoring. And we're planning to use their 26 questions and compare them with accessibility. So we can test my hypotheses and research questions against that survey to see if better access equals better quality of life. So that's really the focus on the work. So there are 2 things happening in parallel: my research questions and accessibility and systemic barriers, and basic structure numbers. Let me give you an example here on screen. So this is an example. This is very basic information. 24% of deaf Nigerians said that address clean water. And that's a story that's easy to tell. But now we have so many sets of data and so many projects going on at the same time. I'm sorry if I'm not clear. I'm just throwing a lot of information at you and a lot of ideas. It shows that I think that reflects how overwhelmed I am with the volume of data and the things we're trying to do. So I can go through this data with you and show you, pick a few highlights so that you see what kinds of things we're doing, and then, feel free to ask me questions. Access to information, 7% of deaf Nigerians said that they had access to daily communication. That's only 7%. So it's exciting to have this powerful data we can tell stories with to show, again, that so many people don't realize how serious this deprivation is until you see the numbers. Many deaf people have tried to tell their stories. They're frustrated. They have tried to inform people, but people still do not understand. And hard numbers are a great way to help people understand what the problem is. And this clearly shows that there is a problem. So this is another thing that's difficult about deaf people's lives. They have a variety of needs, and some deaf people like me, I call myself people like us, culturally deaf people, which means we have sign language, we have deaf families, my parents are deaf, we go to deaf schools potentially, we have a different type of needs than other deaf people who have been raised orally, have cochlear implants and hearing aids. They're more focused on hearing and talking. I don't use speech and listening myself. There are other people in the category of late deafened people over the age of 50 who have different needs. The community is so varied. So how do we tell stories about each of these demographic groups and make their needs known and address their needs? So we have to look for commonality and demographics that are the same so that we can share that information and highlight access needs for everyone. Access to information is one essential area. It tends to be auditory. We live in an auditory world, an auditory-centric world, which means that we need to reframe and see how we can get that information accessible to us. Through interpreters is one way. Hearing devices is another way. Closed captions is another way. So that's one of the basic foundations in our work, is trying to figure out how information can be made accessible to deaf people. And if you see this during crisis, disasters like war, earthquakes, hurricanes, technology often breaks down. And so people depend on radios. And I think the fallback is radios. That means radio communication. That means deaf people are excluded from that. For example, bomb warnings, any kind of radio warnings during crisis or disaster. We need to find a way to disseminate the information in a better way that deaf people can have access to that communication. Only 12% of people feel that they are getting that information. So let me pick out another. This is one thing that we tend to tell stories about. 3% of deaf Nigerians reported that they have full access to batteries and other technology for hearing aids. This is a perfect way also to communicate with people to stop focusing so much on quick fixes. Because often, there'll be a spotlight that's in the media where rich people give free hearing aids to deaf people. And it's one of my biggest pet peeves because it doesn't solve the problem. 3% of deaf people have access to hearing aid replacement, batteries, technology, repairs. So somebody will come in and give a big donation, but within a few months, the equipment is not functional. And then you've wasted all of that money and time. So I know I only have 10 minutes. I could really go on and on all day.
Thanks, Lorne.
So at this point, do you have questions?
We can do questions. I can show the website, share my screen, show the website, and do questions at the end. Or if people have pressing questions right now, and then I show the website later. Lorne, your work is inspiring. I hope we can help with the community. Yes, the recording is available soon after the event. So do you have any pressing questions, or I can go through the website and then we do questions at the end?
Yeah, why don't you go ahead, Frederick?
Okay, cool. So I'm going to share my screen and show you the This for Social Good website, just to make sure that you know where to go to get the data, since there's so many new people in the room. Can you see my web browser? So
Yeah.
This for Social Good is our website as the way to get started. Maybe Vanita, if you can just put the link in the chat. But I also have the link in the recording and then as a follow-up email after the call anyway. So you head to thisforsocial.com, scroll down. That's the current project. I also want to highlight that as Lorne said, we could spend hours, he could spend hours talking. We don't have that kind of luxury. But if you have questions during the project, we use Slack extensively. So Lorne will be on Slack, we'll be on Slack. So if you have questions and you want to ask questions to Lorne, make sure you join the Slack channel. So click on that link there. You should be able to join the Slack channel. If you can't join, I can invite you. But that's an amazing way to basically ask questions, send feedback, send mock-ups of visuals, for example. And if it's a technical question about the data, Lorne can answer. If it's a question about the process, Vanita and myself can answer. But yeah, make sure you join the Slack channel.
And just
Also,
to add, Frederick, if you by joining the Slack channel, you're part of the community. It's a great way to network. We found that the volunteers are helping each other as well through this community and technical questions. So if you're looking to learn more, great place to join the Slack channel in our community.
Yeah, excellent. You also saw that we're also fundraising. So if you know someone that can donate a few dollars, we all volunteers, by the way. We all have dead jobs. We just love running and getting the community together for that kind of purpose. So current project, so that's where we're going. So I'm going to the specific page, project page for the Global Death Research Institute. So I'm not going to spend too much time on the intro there because Lorne made some amazing job explaining who is, what they're doing. But you can basically read about the project itself. In terms of key dates, so today is the launch or the kickoff date. You'll have about 4 weeks to work on your project. We've got a deadline of May the 31st. There's no hours. It's not an official competition. We pretty loose with the deadline. 1 or 2 days extra doesn't matter too much. I'm sure Dennis is on the call or was on the call. He's always the champion of being late. Dennis, are you on the call? I'm not sure. I saw you before. So if you give us your submissions a few days after, it doesn't matter too much. You see there's a submission form as well. So when you click on that, it will basically ask you to tell us where you submitted your visualization. It could be Tableau Public, it could be a PDF link to Google Drive, it could be a Canva page, it could be anything, a video. As Vanita said, we're tool agnostic. Most of users, or 60% of users, use Tableau or Tableau Public, but people can use any tools, any software they want, even down to pen and paper, Play-Doh, Legos, any physical objects you want to visualize and tell stories. You need to be creative. We want you to be creative. Towards the end of the 4 weeks, we might have 20, 30, 50 submissions. I'm going to ask Lorne to select his favorite 5 projects. And then we're going to invite those 5 projects for a live call on June the 7th. Similar model, like a Zoom call, 1 hour, where we'll be asking the volunteers that have been selected to present back to Lorne. So basically, you share your screen and you tell us where you did it and how. The reason we only select 5 is we don't have time for the 50 to present. So as I said, there's no competition, but we still want the 5 best one that Lord thinks are the best to be able to present at the live event there. So keep that in mind. But there's not a competition. There's no winners or losers. Everybody's a winner. The data is on the Google Drive. So when you click on that link, um, I won't do it. It might take a few seconds, but it's basically a Google Drive, Excel file. Something that Lord said that's very important is the data is very comprehensive. There's a lot of columns. It's a survey data. You don't need to visualize every single columns. So pick a few, because it could be quite daunting to visualize everything. As Lord said, and then it might take you more than 4 weeks. So maybe pick your battle and select a few metrics that you feel are very powerful. We also, for the Tableau users, you might have seen my announcement in Slack. Steve Wexler is a Tableau visionary and he's a bit of a Tableau expert in terms of visualizing survey data. So he's agreed to share his white paper. So as I said, we're not all Tableau users, but for the Tableau users, you can open his PDF and get some best practice. Survey data can be sometimes a bit tricky to visualize. But as I said, if you have any doubt, just use Slack and we can chat and you can send mock-ups, for example. As I said, tool agnostic, you can use any tools. I don't know if Lord has any preference in terms of PDF, interactive dashboards, printable, or whatever. I think Lord, you can maybe spell that out, but I think Lord was telling us, be creative. I think he wants to be blown away. So share your creativity. It's not a work project, so be bold and be very creative. And as I said, I'm going to jump to the Slack channel just to show you quickly. Can you see Slack now on that page? So while I'm on Slack, on the Research Root Slack, on the project discussion channel, the best way is basically to just tag Lorne. And if you have a question, just tag him and Lord will be monitoring the Slack if you have technical questions about the data. If you want to share just general question about the process or even like a screenshot or you want some feedback, just tag us and then the community will be jumping in and be willing to basically give you some feedback. That's all I wanted to show you in terms of process. I'm happy now to open the floor for questions, general questions, question about the data set. The data is already live on the page, as you can see. So you can jump in and start the project, but over to you for questions. Dennis, you're one of our esteemed volunteers. Do you have any questions or not questions, but more like a tips and trick to get started if people are not sure how to start? Dennis, I know you're at the airport, so it might not be that easy for you to talk. But
he has a question in the Slack, I think, or in the chat about the WHO documentation.
I can see there's a question about, Sarah was asking a question about, is there any logos, images, or colors you want us to use? So that's a question for Lord. Do you have any logos, preference with images, photos, or colors you want us to use?
Okay.
I'm sorry. I was trying to answer one of the questions in the chat. Okay. The WHO question in the link. Anyway, so what did you I just missed the question that was just asked. Could you repeat that?
The question was if Lord has any colors, logos, photos he wants us to use for the visual.
Yes, that would be really nice. I have our brand logo and our colors that I can share with all of you. How should I disseminate that information? Is Slack okay?
Slack. Slack is good.
Okay, fine. I will be able to do that. Okay.
And Frederick, maybe we'll update the project website as well in case people who couldn't join today wouldn't. Okay, perfect.
Yeah, put that in the project page. So did you say there were other questions? So yeah, Dennis is saying he's at the airport. So, but Dennis is already
So
like,
I see a question. I would like to answer the questions that are in the chat. The first one is from Leah Maxon, who said, or who asked, how do I decide to go ahead, or how did we pick Nigeria as a focus country to collect data? And the other question is there a specific methodology to use data? Okay, those are great questions. So when I founded the organization, we were worried about funding. You know, it's very difficult to find funding to start up an organization. So we are well known. I am well known in the deaf community. I have a history of doing great work and a PhD in bio. And somebody wanted to support me to invest in deaf organizations for capacity building in Nigeria. So they asked me to get involved. So I contracted with them as an organization, and I gathered information about how to support people and what the deaf organizations wanted and needed. At the same time, while I was in country working on that, I paid out of my pocket to meet people and to do travel while I was there to collect data. So I was hitting two birds with one stone. I supported their project there on contract, and then I worked on my own to gather data. And from there, I learned that the country has different deaf organizations. Like there's progressive organizations that support deaf people's rights. And in some countries, there are no deaf organizations. Some countries are more advanced than others. So I had to set up criteria to decide which country I should collect data in. Because we wanted to select a country who would put that data to good use. Given that, we had to figure out how, and maybe you could help me with that, with this question, how we can use the data that we've collected to make it accessible to deaf organizations. Because often, not just deaf people, but hearing people as well, when they get the data, they're overwhelmed with it and they don't know what to do with it, how to implement it, how to use it, how to interpret it, and how they share that with other people. So a great thing from you would be to figure out how to show, share, and view data in a clear visual way so that deaf organizations can use it to support policy change. So that's something that we do need to figure out. And how can the deaf organizations use this data to make progress and proceed with their priorities and the things that they're trying to do? So that would be something that would be great to get help with. What we have done so far is that we've encouraged town hall meetings with government officials to meet with deaf leaders and a variety of key stakeholders to come together and have deaf organizations present data at those town hall meetings. So we work together with organizations to do that. But there are still so many things we can do with the data, how to disseminate them, you know, in like social media, proposals to government agencies, maybe vlogs, video, how to disseminate that. So there are many projects in those areas. The other from Dennis, well, first of all, are you satisfied with my answer to Leah's question?
perfect.
Okay, if there are no follow-ups to that.
There's a question about
okay,
personal data. There's a question about personal data from Eddie Joe. You see this one, Lorne? Concern about personal data. Is it possible to upload the data to GitHub? So can you explain, Lorne, if the data has been cleared to be able to use in the public space?
Okay, I'm sorry, I didn't understand that question. So could you repeat it?
It's a question from Elijo that says, uh, is there any concern relating to personal data? Is it possible to upload the data to GitHub as public repository?
So talking about the data, that's something that we want to make it accessible to people, but we haven't done that yet. My team would like to publish the data first and to figure out how to disseminate the information. So if we have to share data, I understand that we will work in partnership with people and work that out. But the personal data, as far as confidentiality, we have already been able to mask like people's phone numbers, contact information, personal data like that, so we're able to share the results without sharing people's private information.
So just to reinforce, the data that we can use for the project is okay. That's to reassure the people in the call. But there's no personal information. Yeah,
and
someone
just
else?
To add, no, it's Benita. Just to add,
yeah.
We, for all our projects, we respect privacy and confidentiality. So when we work with the charities, we absolutely make sure that their data is anonymized or aggregated, so we're not able to, point back to individual folks. So that's one of our principles.
Yes, very good.
Question from Yen. About is there a specific theme you're looking out for? For example, how can leaders improve accessibility for the deaf community? Any theme, any topic you're looking for? Lorne, I think you said that, but maybe you can reinforce.
Yes, I think that that's a challenge that we've had. How do I say this? How do I explain it? So there are a range of deaf people, some that are closely connected with hearing societies and hearing people that can hear, they can speak, all the way to the other end that are more like culturally deaf people who are indigenous, maybe, who live in villages. They have different ways of life, different ways of communicating, different ways of thinking. And I'm sort of at the end of that spectrum. So that's something that I've struggled to explain to quote unquote normal people, hearing people, the data along that whole range of people. So I would love to have your perspective and your observations about accessibility and the kinds of issues that really pull at people's heartstrings and have impact on them, on people, so that we can share our stories well that lead to change and lead to breaking down systemic barriers, lead to political action. We try to not only talk about how to communicate with doctors and that kind of thing in the health care profession, but also how to educate people in the health fields, how to educate the public and educate people working in certain fields. So I don't know if that answered your question.
Thank you. Also, Lorne, to clarify, there will be a lot of data experts joining the project. If someone sees maybe opportunity to improve the data, or if they see gaps or mistakes in the data set, they're quite welcome to spell that out and let you know. Is that right? You're happy to suggestions, best practices in terms of data collection, data preparation? Yes. I guess it's a yes.
Yes, definitely. I'm absolutely open to that. Please share anything like that.
Okay. I see a question from Victor. Victor, why don't you come off mute? I'm going to get to you to work a bit and maybe ask you a question on the microphone and video. if you can. Are you there, Victor? Victor is asking about the roadmap for the organizations. Victor, put you on the spot.
Yeah, sorry. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for this project. I'm very enjoying, very inspired. So my question, let me see it again, sorry. Um, yeah, you were talking about the organizations that you were working with. So I would like to know if you have some kind of roadmap of the projects that they are working right now, like to try to have a sense of the outcomes that they are working, if they are working in something right now or they are projecting to work in something in the near future or something like that, to have a sense of the work that they are doing.
So I want to clarify. I just showed you that presentation about our project that we just finished collecting data. Now, is your question, do you want to know what projects we are doing as an organization starting now and going forward? Do you want to know what projects we are planning? Is that what you mean?
No, I would like to know, for example, now I understand that we are based in Nigeria, but I would like to understand, for example, if the communities there were or are already planning to contribute with the deaf communities, like if they are making an effort by themselves, or for example, if they are just with your project are just going to start to make this effort with the communities. So it's like from zero, we are going to start contributing with some changes. And what we want to show to the community and the police makers is like, okay, we are going to start because we are not doing anything with them. Or in the other case, they are doing something, maybe it's a little bit, and from that is where we are going to work with the data story that we are going to tell.
Okay, yes, I understand your question now. That's a very good question. The deaf agencies in Nigeria are called the Nigerian National Association of the Deaf, NAD, and they just finished a proposal, a large proposal to the government to try to push for ratifying an official language, sign language in the country to adopt sign language as an official national language. So they made a proposal, and it was hard because we had some good data that we could have used about interpreting services. We had interpreters ourselves, about deaf people who wanted to learn signs. We had some specific areas of data that we could have shared with them, but they had already made their proposal. So we were left in a position of supporting that effort and promoting that effort, but we couldn't really make contributions of data to revise the proposal because it had already been submitted. So their main focus right now is trying to get sign language recognized as an official language. That's where their efforts lie right now. Another thing is when I went to the country, different deaf organizations in the country had different goals. Some of them were focused on healthcare. Some of them were focused on promotion of sign language. So we would love to have a template for each organization to follow so that they could, determine their needs. Thank you for that question.
Thanks, Lorne. We only have a few minutes left.
Thank you to you.
Sorry. Only maybe 5 minutes left. I see a couple of questions in the chat, more technical questions about tools we can use. Yes, we can use any tools, including Power BI. Doesn't matter. As I said, it could be pen and paper, Lego, Play-Doh, a painting, as long as you can tell a story and provide some insight for the community to use. In terms of uploading formats, yeah, it could be a PDF, it could be a Tableau public link or a workbook or a link to a Canva page. As I said, as long as there's an insight. Lord, there was a question about, oh, I think you replied already, Nigerian Sign Language in the data set. If you have more questions, put them in the Slack and then tag Lorne, technical question about the columns and the naming or that kind of stuff. We can collect questions and make a Q&A, but if you have a lot of questions, we put them in the Slack for everyone to see. Any more questions before we wrap up? We could stay there forever, but some people have to go to work, including me. It's 7 o'clock here. Any more questions?
Hey, I had one question. So, as it was mentioned that they were a lot of there are over 100 columns and different data will be used by different organization leaders. So, do you have any priority order, say the health department or health organization needs priority so that we focus more on those columns, any such order, or is it open to analyzing any column as such?
Good question, Asia.
I'm open. Bring it on. Blow my mind.
Message last
Thank you.
and clear. Bring it on. If we don't have maybe last question. If not, thanks for joining everyone, the community. It means a lot. Thanks, Lorne, and thanks the interpreter. Sorry, I didn't catch your name. You've been great help. Lord, any closing comments before we finish? I'm going to send the recording as well and put in the project page just in case people have your colleagues probably didn't attend the event. But Lorne, any closing comments before we wrap up? And Vanita, you can close after. Do some work.
Thank you so much for volunteering to support this important work. I'm really excited and happy that this is happening. We've gone through a lot of growing pains, and this really helps, and it's inspiring me for future projects.
Amazing. Something I didn't mention as well, I should have. We all skill levels. So if there's beginners that are just starting up, learning a tool, publish, share your work. We don't need to be experts. So if you're starting up and you're not too sure, just publish one chart, for example, and then that'd be amazing to contribute. We don't want the experts. We want everybody in the room, even students that can contribute. Thanks a lot. Vanita, do you want to close off and say bye?
Sure.
And then...
Are you doing your picture?
Oh yeah, can you go off video and then someone who's doing the screenshots? I can do a screenshot. We've been told for a social media person that we need to do a screenshot photo. So if you can come off video, please. Hey, Sarah.
Hey.
Cute picture. Somebody has a cute picture of a dog there.
Oh, it's gone now. Saw that too. Okay, are you going to tell us to smile, Frederick?
Hang on, I'll do it again. Please smile. I think I've got it. I think. Oh, thanks a lot, Lorraine. Vanessa, close comment.
Yes. Thank you, everyone. And
Thank
Lorne,
you so
your
much.
story was so inspiring. It's just, we really look forward to working with all of you as well. So everyone have a good evening, good morning. Enjoy the rest of your days and evenings. Thank you so much.
Thanks again.
Thank you.
See you on Slack.
All right. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Hey.
Hang on, I can stop recording. How do I do that? Where's the stop recording?